Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today we're going to start with a new lesson about talking about the interdependence between living things. But before, we're going to recall what we took in the previous lesson about symbiosis. We said that symbiosis has three types. The first type is mutualism, the second type is parasitism, and the third type is commensalism. Mutualism is when both organisms benefit from each other, from the relation between each other, such as the relation between the ladybird and the plant, where the ladybird feeds on the aphid, the ladybird benefits and the plant benefits by getting rid of the aphid. The other symbiotic relation is parasitism, where one organism, which we call the parasite, hurts another organism, which we call the host, and lives on it. Like, for example, the aphid and the plant, where the aphid is the parasite and the plant is the host. The last relationship is commensalism, where one organism benefits while the other is not affected. Here we can give an example of, for example, the bird which puts the nest on a tree. Here the bird benefits because it finds a place to live in, but the tree is not affected. So our new lesson is talking about food relationships, which is one aspect of interdependence. First of all, I want you to open your science book, which, by the way, is the book called I Discover from the edition Sigma Science Library Khoury. Open it page 39 and the workbook page 38 and 39. We're going to start with the situation. The situation says that many examples show that the relations between living things of the same habitats are often food relationships. So most of the relationships between living things in the same habitat and the same place is related to food. For example, we see this figure. They are asking us who eats whom among the living things shown in the adjacent figure. So here we see carrots eaten by the rabbit, and the rabbit is eaten by the wolf. Here we have one type of food relationship. The question is, what is a food chain? As we saw here in the situation, we notice that there is a relation on three levels. We call each one of these levels a link, and a group of links, a series of links, make a chain. And because they are eating each other, we call this a food chain. So the food chain is a series of living things, each one eating the one preceding it. For example, if we have grass, it is eaten by a rabbit, and the rabbit is eaten by the wolf. Here we have what we call a food chain, where grass is eaten by the rabbit and the rabbit is eaten by the wolf. Let's play this game, the food chain game. First of all, I'm going to make a food chain using a bird, a flower, and a caterpillar. We start the chain with the flower, then the flower is eaten by the caterpillar, then the bird is eaten by the caterpillar is eaten by the bird. Let's try another chain. Here we will start with the acorn. The acorn is eaten by the field mouse or the mouse. The mouse is eaten by a snake, while the snake is eaten by a hawk. Here is also a food chain. Now let's try a marine food chain in the sea, for example. We will start with alga, which is a marine plant. The alga is eaten by small fish, then the small fish is eaten by a big fish. Finally, the big fish is eaten by a dolphin. This is also a food chain. Let's try another one. We'll start with a flower. The flower is eaten by an insect. A small fish eats this insect. A big fish eats the small fish. And finally, a seagull eats the fish, as we see here in this animation. Let's go to the next chain. Here we'll start with the plant. The cricket or the grasshopper will eat the plant. The lizard will eat the grasshopper. then the hawk will eat the lizard. Here, when the hawk dies, it will be decomposed by mushrooms, and then it will give a new plant. So another chain also, we have here what we call phytoplanktons, which are microscopic plants. They are eaten by fish. The fish is eaten by a jellyfish. The turtle is eaten. The jellyfish is eaten by the turtle. The turtle is eaten by the shark. And when the shark dies, it is decomposed by bacteria. Another chain, we have here also phytoplanktons eaten by mussels. Then the mussels are eaten by small fish. The small fish is eaten by the big fish. And finally the big fish is eaten by human. So let's go on. We will look at the document, this document found in your book, and we're going to use it to fill in these 5 chains. So we want to complete the following food chains by observing the food relations in the forest. Let's start with the first chain. One of the links of the first chain is the grasshopper. Let's search for the grasshopper. This is the grasshopper. The grasshopper, first of all, it eats what? It eats grass. So the first link in this chain is grass. Then the grasshopper is eaten by a bird called a cuckoo. So the third link here is called the cuckoo. Then the cuckoo is eaten by the buzzard. So the final link is the buzzard. Let's search for the other chain. One of its links is the snake. Let's see, where's the snake? Here is the snake. What does the snake eat? It eats a grasshopper. And in turn, the grasshopper also, as we said before, it eats grass. So here, the first link is grass. The second link is grasshopper. The grasshopper is eaten by the snake. Now let's look at the figure again. The snake is eaten by what? It's eaten by the buzzard. So we will write buzzard at the end. Let's search for the third chain. The third chain starts with pine leaves, and it has the tit in it. Let's see. So pine leaves, where are pine leaves? These are pine leaves. Pine leaves are eaten by what? By pine caterpillar. Then the pine caterpillar is eaten by the tit. Then the tit is eaten by the buzzard. So let's fill the chain. First of all, pine leaves are eaten by the pine caterpillar. The pine caterpillar is eaten by the tit, and the tit is eaten by the buzzard. Chain number 4. Let's see chain number 4. First, we have the pine is eaten by the cicada. Then the cicada is eaten by the cuckoo. Then the cuckoo is eaten by the buzzard. So we'll fill chain number 4. Tree sap of the pine, the liquid of the pine, is eaten by the cicada. Then the cicada is eaten by the cuckoo. Then the cuckoo is eaten by the buzzard. Let's see now the final chain. Also, the pine sap is eaten by the cicada. The cicada is also eaten by the tit. So look here, the cicada is eaten by the cuckoo and the tit. There are 2 animals, 2 birds that eat the same insect. Then the tit is eaten by the buzzard. So we'll fill here. Tree sap is eaten by cicada. Cicada is eaten by tit. And finally the tit is eaten by the buzzard. I want you to copy these links, these chains on your workbook. Okay? Pause the video to copy them on your workbook. Now, after you've copied the 5 chains on your workbook, we'll start questions number 3. What is the nature of the first link in each chain? Let's recall the 5 chains. Look at the first link in each chain. Grass, grass, pine leaves, tree sap, tree sap. All of these links are of plant origin. So the nature of these is a plant. The first link of all chains is a plant. All the chains start with a plant. How do we call it and why? What do we call these plants? They are called here, look here, they are called producers. So, what do we call them? Producers. Why do we call them producers? From the word producer, it means that they produce their own matter. So, we call it producer since it produces its own organic matter or food. Now, how do we call the other links? Let's look at the other links. We notice here we have link 2 primary consumer, link 3 secondary consumer, and link 4 tertiary consumer. So they are all called consumers. We call them consumers since they consume the organic matter they need for energy.